So, day two passed of Disney's D23 at the Honda Center in Anaheim, California. And its main focus was on Marvel Animation, at least the first part of it. And then the second part was on the Disney parks. But let's talk about Marvel Animation, for example, because they did give off information of new seasons of several established Marvel animated shows on Disney Plus and what will be coming to those, as well as the new shows as well, including one that really, I think, surprised a lot of folks as well, because I don't think anybody heard about this one coming until D23. They didn't hint at it at SDCC this year, but they did talk about it here. So what are the shows? So what are the shows that not only are going to be getting new seasons, but the new shows that are coming as well? Well, according to Discussing Film, Brad Wenderbaum says they will always change up the animation styles within Marvel Animation projects, adding there will be no in-house style. Now, what that means basically is if you go back to the original Marvel Animation pre-Disney, a lot of the animated shows that they would produce, like Spider-Man on Fox and the syndicated Sunday morning Marvel Action Hour or Action Block, which was Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, and Fantastic Four, they always had very similar styles. The styles always seemed to be, the same. It's like basically if you wanted to cross a character over into one show, you wouldn't notice any significant animation difference or change or things like that. Which is why, obviously, they went with, Spider-Man on Fox to be the crossover they needed for Secret Wars, as well as in the incorporation of Spider-Man meets the X-Men and Spider-Man, Iron Man, and so on. So that kind of explains, that situation there back in the 90s. But what they're doing here, what this guy is saying here, though, is a lot of the shows you will see are Marvel Animation originals, there's no doubt, but their styles are going to be different to the point that even if they decide to do a crossover, now he didn't say crossover, let me emphasize this, he did not mention anything about a crossover, but my opinion is if they wanted to do a crossover, then you'd be able to tell what what show is crossing over with the other show based on the animation styles. In other words, they would be so distinctly different that it will be a strange kind of viewing of how they're meshing together into this one scenario. But yeah, his main thing here is a lot of the shows you see on Disney Plus, their animation styles are always going to be different no matter what, and I think that's also to make them unique and to stand out amongst each other. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Now, Excuse me, just drinking some coffee. Doing this while my mom's at church, too. So, anyway, getting back to what I was saying, they did discuss, one of the first things they did discuss, I think, was what if Season 3 will be the final season of the What If series. In case you guys don't know what that is, What If is basically based on a concept that Marvel did back, in the 80s, 90s, and I think even the late 70s, but mostly throughout the 80s and 90s and stuff, and even up to the 2000s and maybe even present day. Basically, What If plays around with the concept of, what if this would have happened instead of this? Like, what if this person got the powers instead of so-and-so? What if this cosmic climactic event, if you will, occurred instead of this cosmic climactic event? And so on. That's basically what they do. They play around with that scenario. And one of the more common questions that they answer here is, what if Agent Carter, Steve Rogers' love interest, got the powers of Captain America and became Captain Britain instead of Steve Rogers getting it. So that's basically what if is. It is basically, looking into, the possibility of this happening or that happening and so on. Now, they do talk about this. They do acknowledge that Season 3 will include an episode featuring an Avengers team of Captain America, Moon Knight, Monica Rambeau, and more facing off against Gamma monsters, which I'm assuming one of them would be the Hulk. I'm not really sure. They also say that Ironheart and Shang-Chi will appear in What If as well. Moon Knight will appear in What If, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, you got Ironheart, Shang-Chi, Moon Knight, appearing. One could assume that they will be teaming up. Well, at least we know Moon Knight is, according to what we're seeing here. But one can assume that Ironheart will team up with Captain America, Moon Knight, Monica Rambeau, and whoever else on the What If Avengers team against Gamma monsters. Then they talked about another show, and this is the one I talked about earlier, that I don't think really was talked about too much, and if it was, hasn't been really talked about since. It's an animated show called The Eyes of Wakanda. That's right, it's called The Eyes of Wakanda. And that sounds interesting, in title alone, there's no doubt. Sounds interesting in title alone. It's an animated series that delves into Wakanda history. That's right. It's called Eyes of Wakanda. It's an animated series that dives into Wakandan history. Todd Harris developed the series, who served as a storyboard artist behind many modern action movies. Now they go on to say that an Iron Fist, not the Iron Fist, but an Iron Fist, which is another Marvel superhero, will appear in Eyes of Wakanda. It says, and then they mentioned that Ryan Coogler says Eyes of Wakanda does a beautiful job of representing the history of those who had to keep Wakanda a secret over centuries. So in other words, what it sounds like to me is we're going to have like different timelines represented in episodes of, several different Black Panthers that had to protect Wakanda and keep it a secret from the world. So that's going to be interesting. That's going to be interesting because the images that, Discussing Film do share are basically based off what I guess they're hearing and it's being shown. And it's all centered around Black Panther. So one could assume that, again, we might be getting episodes with different timelines that represent represents different kinds of Black Panthers protecting Wakanda and trying to keep it a secret along with their allies, one including possibly Iron Fist. So that'll be cool. Then they talked about Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. They gave a new look on that. They mentioned that Coleman Domingo will voice Norman Osborn in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Hudson Thomas voices Peter Parker in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. He voiced the character in What If, so he's coming back for this one. Obviously makes sense. And then this is interesting. It says Peter and Norman's relationship in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is like a what-if scenario of Peter and Tony from the MCU. The main difference of Peter learning from Norman, who uses more questionable methods. In other words, it's going to be like, what you see with, Peter Parker and Tony Stark in the MCU, how Tony was like more of a mentor for Peter than anything else, and tried to teach him certain things to possibly pass on, the baton, the torch to Peter. Well, Norman's going to, fill in that gap. But again, from what they're saying is it's going to be done it's going to be done to where even Peter will question his methods. Like, hey, I'm learning from this guy. That's great. But I'm not too sure, as to how I agree with how he does things. That's going to be an interesting dynamic. It said, now they did mention the first clip of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man reveals Peter getting his spider bite when Doctor Strange and Venom come through a portal fighting along with a spider. So that's a little bit different. I think they also mentioned, again, trying to find more information here. Let's see. Let me go to Discussing Films website, hopefully with no issue. Here we go. Discussingfilm.net. Let's see what they say. Okay. They say though. So let's start over here. Let's get into. Oh, well, let's just try to find where we left off here. Okay, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. It says the upcoming Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man series was introduced at the Marvel Animation D23 as being about a Spider-Man that you know, but maybe not the one you expect, teasing a story that diverts from the ones fans saw in the MCU trilogy of movies. That difference was expounded upon at the panel, with the key difference between Peter Parker in the series and the one in the MCU being Peter's mentor. Whereas he learned from Tony Stark and all his mistakes and morals in the movies, it's Norman Osborn who mentors Peter in the show, and Osborn uses methods that some people find questionable. With this news came the casting of Coleman Domingo as Norman Osborn. And then, of course, it talks about, again, what I just said about the footage they showed about how Peter gets a spider bite. It says the preview depicts Peter's first day of his freshman year. His arrival at school is immediately interrupted by Doctor Strange fighting a monster that looks a lot like Venom. One of the strange portals leads to a radioactive spider from the Venom's monster's universe landing on Peter and biting him as he is meeting Necro Minru, a character from the Runaway series of the comics. The animation style is very comic book inspired with cel animation, with shots split into comic book panels to invoke the feeling of reading a comic. Okay. They say there was another scene shown from the series that takes place 5 months later, depicting Peter taking down a street-level thugs with advanced tech. One of them is a boy who has metallic boots that give him short bursts of super speed. Another of them is a woman with cyber blade. Peter wearing a prototype suit similar to the one seen in Homecoming, but slightly different. It's struggling to fight the thugs. However, Norman Osborn rings him on his comms and gives him advice on how to stop the thugs. The footage highlights Norman's mentor relationship with Peter and the fatherly bond that is developing there. With Norman advice, Peter stops the thugs. Or with Norman's advice, Peter stops the thugs. Okay, so that's basically what Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is going to be like. Now, let's go to the beginning, like I said, with What If. Bring that up. And it says in detail for the upcoming third season of What If has just been announced as the final season of the series at the Marvel Animation D23 panel. The different alternate universe concepts that will be explored in this final season of the show include a Voltron anime-style episode introduction, as an Avengers team led by Sam Wilson and consisting of Moon Knight, Photon, Monica Rambeau, Red Guardian, and more pilot giant mecha suits in order to combat gamma monsters. It was also revealed that other episodes in the final season of What If will explore characters such as Moon Knight, Ironheart, Shang-Chi, and White Vision. So that's going to be pretty cool. You know, to see Anthony Mackie, who's playing Sam Wilson in the movies, as well as in Falcon and Winter Soldier, is going to be voicing his character in the show. X-Men 97 Season 2. Here's what's going to be interesting. Not much new X-Men 97 footage was shown at the Marvel Animation D23. However, there were brief snippets of the upcoming season in the season reel. The brief footage revealed that the X-Men would wear the Grant Morrison suits in the upcoming season. Moreover, characters such as Havoc, Paralis, Bishop, Apocalypse, and Danger will appear in the upcoming season. The brief snippets also seem to confirm that Wolverine survived Magneto's attack at the end of the season. Other than that, no new information was divulged about the series. So that's pretty cool. And the Grant Morrison suits, in case you guys don't know, and I'll try to post that up here, the image of those. It's just, them wearing outfits with a big X across them, in some ways. Then, of course, the other one that I mentioned earlier, Eyes of Wakanda. It says fans finally got new information on the upcoming Eyes of Wakanda animated series at the Marvel Animation D23 panel. The series would explore new corners of the Marvel Universe, more specifically the mystical city of Kunlu, and the culture of that secret society would be explored, along with a new version of the character of Iron Fist would appear in the series, given that he is known as a defender of Kunlu in the comics. Ryan Coogler was at the presentation and spoke about the direction of the series and how war dogs are challenged with keeping Wakanda a secret. So we can go back and look at the sacrifice people made to keep that secret. A new character in the series, Nolan, will act as a disruptor in Wakanda, trying to expose some of the country's corruption to the people of the hidden nation. You can expect Eyes of Wakanda to be a nice companion piece to the Black Panther films. Moreover, the series delves into the history of its secrets and intersection with other locations such as Kunlu. The series is also going to be utilizing 3D animation. Expect different time periods, which I suspected and mentioned earlier. Expect different time periods of Wakanda to be explored, almost like an anthology series. Eyes of Wakanda will also be canon to the MCU. So that's pretty cool. Now, moving on. As I get rid of these... One thing about these websites is they always have ads. I don't know why. Moving on to Marvel Zombies. Yes. The upcoming Marvel Zombies animated series was described at the Marvel Animation D23 event as being a hardcore TV-MA series. TVMA series. Moreover, the series was revealed to be a 4-episode event. Exclusive footage description. The footage shown at the panel begins with Shang-Chi, Katie, and Jimmy Woo in the middle of the street fighting zombies. They begin to get overrun until okay, let me reread that. They begin to get overrun until the Mandarin shows up and starts fighting the zombies along with the 10 rings. A particular standout moment akin to Attack on Titan is a kaiju-like zombie that the Mandarin kills by throwing the rings at the center of its forehead in a bloody sequence. The Mandarin tells Shang-Chi to leave the civilians and run with him until Shang-Chi is bitten by one of the zombies. The virus begins to progress up his arm. The Mandarin sacrifices himself by transferring the rings to Shang-Chi, who is then taken by the Death Dealer. He picks them up in a helicopter before the scene ends. The footage cuts to 5 years later with Shang-Chi and the same group of characters in the wasteland in vehicles that looks like something from a Mad Max film. They've been chased by a Skrull biker gang, and the footage highlights an action set piece as they fight the Skrulls with the 10 rings. It's a more lighthearted set piece set to the song Lights by Journey, with them taking the Skrull bikers out, while Jimmy Woo sings along to the song. Unfortunately, the series was announced as not coming out for a while. Okay. And that's pretty much it for the animation panel, according to Discussing Films. That's pretty much for the animation panel at D23. Now, here's what's interesting about Marvel Zombies that I'm looking at here. They say it's quote-unquote not going to come out for a while. And it has been described as hardcore TVMA or hardcore TV-MA. And that's to be expected. It's going to have bloody sequences and all that. I get it. Not very Disney Plus-like and everything, but Disney Plus has that TVMA. Disney Plus now has the TVMA rating in the options of your settings. So if you want to say like, I want to watch everything, I don't want nothing hidden, you're going to be able to get that if you choose that option. But be that as it may, you have to wonder why, okay, they have all this set to go. They have all this set to go and everything. And, they're showing footage, that's completed, that's, ready to be part of an episode. But yet it's not coming out for quote unquote a while. So the question is, what could be the holdup? My thing is honestly, that I think the reason there's a holdup in everything, is mainly due to the fact that, because I think it's mainly due to the fact of, it's MA sequence is what I think it is. I'm just checking something outside my window, just seeing something. But anyway, I think that's what it is. I think it's mainly due to the fact that it's a hardcore TV-MA, and it's not something that you relate to Disney or you associate with Disney as much. And in my opinion, I think that's just holding it up. Because you got to remember, Bob Chapek was running things when that was being announced. Iger is back in. So you got to wonder if there's a difference of opinion. We're not really sure if that has anything to do with it. But be that as it may, it does make you kind of, curious as to maybe there's a bit of a struggle on the higher up situation, the higher anarchy situation, as to whether or not, they'll be able to put Marvel Zombies on Disney Plus, or they may have to put it as a Hulu exclusive. Hulu, it has its own hub in Disney Plus right now. That's great. But, it's still its own separate entity. Kind of like Boomerang is going to be its own separate entity still, but it's going to be part of Max. Same with Hulu. So you have to be curious whether or not that might be what's the holdup. Like, can they put it on Disney Plus, or will they say, no, we're going to put it on Hulu? You have to wonder. But yeah, they're already showing footage and everything. It feels like it's ready. It feels like it's ready to go and everything. And the question is it ready, or are they just, is it ready, or are they still deciding whether or not they want to put it on Disney Plus or Hulu? You have to wonder. But so far the animation panel definitely, I think, did a good, from the sounds of it, definitely did a good job. I mean, it gave you, brief glimpses of season 2 of XMen 97. It definitely, lets you know that the outfits, the uniforms are going to change. I'm assuming those outfit changes, those are going to occur towards the end of season 2. Yeah, I've got a feeling they're going to occur towards the end of season 2 for XMen 97, because right now you have them all in separate timelines, and everything. So the question obviously is going to be, how do they get the Grant Morrison outfits within the series? And my thought is we're going to get it towards the end of the series. Well, not series, but the season. We're going to get it towards the end of the season. And you know what's interesting too? Is people will hear that, like, oh, they're going to get the Grant Morrison outfits. They're going to hear that, and they're going to be like, you know what? That sounds familiar. Like, doesn't that kind of lead into what happens with Scott Summers and Cyclops later on and everything? And yeah, it kind of does. It does sound like it might help lead into that for season 3, because there is a season 3, and if you're going to get to that aspect of the X-Men lore, storyline-wise, then you need to have outfits very similar, if not identifiable, to the Grant Morrison ones. So yeah, basically they're planning to do that story soon. Then, there's a reason why the Grant Morrison outfits are coming. But like I said, I don't think we'll be seeing them fully at least until the end of season 2. Now, you also have to wonder whether or not the original writer for both season 1 and 2, if he intended for the Grant Morrison outfits to show up, or if that's a change that's come because of the new writer. Because remember, the new writer and his team that are coming in, word is they're going to be revamping a lot of what you see. They're going to keep some things, but a lot of the other things they're going to be revamping. So you have to wonder, you have to ask yourself, is this part of the revampness? The Grant Morrison outfits, we'll have to see. But I'm looking forward to it. Again, I still stick by the fact that I think things are going to be, kind of like reset, in a way that, one, I believe these Grant Morrison outfits are going to be part of that reset. But the characters are going to keep some memories of what happened. But I think what's going to occur is you're going to have a reset to where certain events that have happened will not happen. If you catch my drift. But we'll see. We'll see what they have planned. I mean, they do show that Wolverine is alive. You got characters we know is going to be in there, like Apocalypse, of course. We know, Xavier is going to be in there, Magneto. They didn't say nothing about Rogue, but again, for anybody that's a Rogue fan, I don't think you have anything to worry about. She'll be fine. It'll be interesting how they give her a Grant Morrison X-Men outfit. But like I said, I don't think you have to worry about her. But they did give us, they did give us a brief glimpse apparently, or did give people a brief glimpse through a sizzle reel of Xavier, Magneto, Havoc, Apocalypse, Danger. So it's Wolverine surviving. So it sounds like it's going to be, it sounds like it's going to be a good season 2, a good follow up to season 1. But we'll have to see, and we'll have to wait and see. Now, going on to the other shows. They talked about Eyes of Wakanda. As I talked about earlier, I had a feeling they were going to, I had a feeling in discussing films, pretty much confirmed this with the people there, that, yeah, we are going to get different time periods. How that's going to be explored is going to be, interesting. But we are going to get different time periods. We're also going to get Iron Fist in there, basically a new version of Iron Fist who protects Kung Lu, which I guess is a neighboring country or something to Wakanda. And you are going to have somebody on the inside of Wakanda trying to reveal its corruption and everything to the people there, but also to the world. So it's going to be interesting how that relates to all the timelines, if there's going to be a connection. But it sounds good. It sounds really good. And having it in 3D animation style, that might be interesting to see as well. And then you got the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man show. I like the idea that Norman Osborn's going to be the mentor, but unlike Tony, he's going to be doing more questionable methods, if you will. And the reason I like that is because it's going to create a strain. It's going to create a strain because we know in some interpretations of Spider-Man, Norman Osborn is the one that becomes Green Goblin. So it's going to be interesting if they go that route, he becomes Green Goblin. It's going to be interesting how that's going to affect Peter's relationship with him. And maybe if they do that, that's going to give us a glimpse of perhaps Peter's reaction, in the MCU Peter, that is, his reaction to, seeing Tony Stark as Victor Von Doom. So we'll see. We'll see what they do, but, I like the concept so far. I do like the concept. I like the idea it's going to be a 3D animation with 2D cell animation, and that the cut scenes, the transition between scenes are going to be very comic book-like. So I like that. I like that because there's going to be a lot of hardcore comic book enthusiasts that are going to appreciate something like that because, as they described, it's going to feel like you're actually watching and reading an actual comic book. So that's good. I do like the idea for what the final season of What If, with episodes exploring, what if scenarios for Moon Knight and Ironheart and others. I do like the idea that apparently we're going to get a Voltron anime-like episode with a team of Avengers consisting of Red Guardian, Sam Wilson, Captain America, Monica Rambeau, Photon, and others. I do like the idea that they're going to be powering giant mecha-like robots, Voltron-inspired apparently, to fight giant gamma monsters. So I like that. So, and to me, I think that's also going to be a tribute to a lot of the kaiju like movies we've gotten from Japan, like Godzilla, Mothra, Destroyer, and so on. You know, so I like the idea that one of the episodes of What If's final season is going to, you know, go in that direction. But outside of all that, it sounds like, you know, Marvel Animation's really picking up its game, and I like the idea that the guy in charge of Marvel Animation is saying, "Hey, look, not every show is going to have the same animation style. They're all going to be completely different." So I do like that. But let me know what your thoughts are. What are your thoughts on a lot of the announcements, you know, given by Marvel Animation, you know, from, you know, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and how its animation style is going to be a mesh of 2D and 3D, as well as the transitions to be very comic book-like. Let me know what your thoughts are on, you know, X-Men 97 Season 2, having the X-Men basically get the Grant Morrison outfits or uniforms, and when do you think that will happen? And do you think maybe that's part of the revampness under the new writer? What are your thoughts on the Eyes of Wakanda? How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that potentially taking place over, you know, different timelines and being more like an anthology series? What are your thoughts there? What are your thoughts on Marvel Zombies and, you know, the footage, you know, that was presented there, you know, for the time? And what are your thoughts on the fact that it's not coming out for a while, quote unquote? What do you think that could mean? Let me know. Let me know what your thoughts are and all that. Love to hear what you guys have to say on it and everything. I think that's pretty much everything. I'm not really sure, but I think that's pretty much everything. I'm double checking here, guys. Hold on. I think that's pretty much everything. Hold on. Let me check. Maybe I can bring it back up. Maybe not. Oh, here we go. Bring it back up for a second. I think that was everything. Yeah, What If, X-Men, Eyes of Wakanda, Spider-Man, and I think Marvel Zombies. Yeah, that was about it. I think that's about it. But yeah, give me your thoughts on all of that. Give me your thoughts on all that. What do you think of it and everything? And which one are you looking forward to the most? And yeah, that's about it, guys. Oh, also, if you're a Fortnite fan, apparently there's going to be a Marvel season coming very soon to Fortnite, so look out for that. But anyway, let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Love to hear from each and every one of you. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on my Teespring store for merchandise you can't get anywhere else. Also, click on the links to where you can find my content elsewhere across the social media board, podcasts, and all that. And really, guys, that's all I can say. And until then, I am out.